Well, hello there. Welcome back to my channel. So this is a part of a video series where we are going to cover some of the uh, methodologies that can be used to establish a data pipeline in IoT. So the focus will be towards Azure's IoT ecosystem and how we can use different PaaS products that are available on Azure to establish the entire data pipeline all the way starting from the device level, that is at edge level, all the way to the cloud and ultimately to our database. So we are going to see how each components interact with each other, what all components from Azure we can use to establish this pipeline, and how do we configure or perform some kind of a customization or write some code at each layer to establish this entire pipeline. So today's video, this is the first part of the series. There will probably be 5 to 6 videos. So in today's video, what we will cover is a general overview of the entire architecture, how each components interact with each other, and then in each of the upcoming videos, we are gonna target each layer, for example, the edge layer or the cloud layer, the database layer, and see how those can be coded or configured to establish the entire ecosystem. So without wasting any more time, let's get started with today's video about establishing the general concept of developing an IoT pipeline using the Azure ecosystem. So as you can see, we are gonna start with some of the components that are gonna be used, and all these components are offered by Windows Azure. So to begin with, we are gonna start with the IoT Hub, which is simply messaging broker platform where the devices can connect to each other. Can connect to the centralized broker and stream in data. So IoT Hub, I'm not gonna go into details of each category. Microsoft has a very good documentation on that front. So essentially speaking, using IoT Hub, we can not only use the devices to get in the data, we can also use IoT Hub to update the devices. We can also use IoT Hub to perform some kind of device management. And essentially it is built to scale, so it can handle millions of devices at a single point of time. The second component is the Azure IoT Edge, which is the device part of this entire ecosystem, and how Edge can be used to send in data to the IoT Hub. We are going to discuss about it more when we discuss about the edge layer in the upcoming videos. The third part is Azure Functions. These are like microservices or blocks of code that gets executed whenever certain events are available. The fourth one is any database offerings like PostgreSQL or SQL, anything of that sort. Fifth one is again a storage offering by Azure, which is known as a blob storage. And lastly, the sixth one is Azure Stream Analytics. So these are some of the components that we are going to use throughout this entire series. I would suggest like you go through the article that is published in Medium and see what are the services. I have explained in detail like what the services do, and I have also provided URLs to the Microsoft Learns documentation where they have explained each services in full details. So let's have a look about like how the data flows when it comes to IoT and when it comes to Azure. So here is an example of two pipelines. The first pipeline establishes like you have devices. Actually, before going to both the pipelines in full details, let's see what are the common elements. So if you have noticed, there are like 90% of the stubs are common. So you have IoT devices which are connected to IoT Hub. Now these IoT devices can either communicate directly to the IoT Hub, or it may run the IoT Edge runtime, which we'll cover in the upcoming video, and send data to the IoT Hub. Now once the data has been sent to the IoT Hub, then the actual part begins. Like you have two options out there. Either you can use Azure Functions, which will simply listen into IoT Hub and then execute whenever there is an incoming event, or at the same time you can have Azure Stream Analytics, which is an analytical toolkit provided by Microsoft Azure, and it can also listen into IoT Hub and process incoming messages. Now these are the only two different difference between the two pipelines. Like one of the pipelines uses Azure Functions, which is my personal favorite, and the second one uses Stream Analytics. So if you have like loads of data and you have to perform really complex ETL jobs, that's where Stream Analytics comes to the picture. But if you have very simplistic logic, I was just dumping the data, performing minimalistic calculation, probably some high level business logic calculation, which like where do you need coding, up to some extent, that's where Azure Functions will be a good option to go for. And in both the cases, what we will see is that even if we use Azure Functions or if we use Azure Stream Analytics, we'll be able to write the data to a database. Now, as far as databases are concerned, we can either go for any PaaS offerings like Microsoft SQL or Azure PostgreSQL, or you can have your own database hosted anywhere on the cloud where you can simply dump the data, whatever you're receiving on Azure Functions or Azure Stream Analytics. So when you're going to discuss about Azure Stream Analytics, we'll see how we can configure a database. And also for the Azure Functions, it's pretty much straightforward, but again, we'll be covering this in the upcoming videos. So these are two pipelines that we are going to establish throughout this series. If we break this pipeline into like multiple layers, then this is the most conceptual area of this entire video series. So if we divide this into like edge layer, the messaging broker layer, the data processing layer, and the data sync layer, then you will be able to understand like how each components fit into the picture. So at the very like device level or low level, you have the Azure IoT Edge, which is again kind of a runtime that runs on these physical devices, or you can have edge devices which can directly communicate. Then you have the messaging broker layer. So that is where all the devices connects to and publishes those messages to the IoT Hub. So IoT Hub in this case is being used as a messaging broker layer where all the device connects and freely exchange informations. The third layer is a data processing layer or the business logic layer, which is where we are going to use either a function app or a Stream Analytics service. So this is where all the business logic goes into, and all these things runs on the cloud. The last part of this entire pipeline is a data sync layer where you actually save the data that you're receiving, and you can have any kind of database that is hosted. So at a very high level, whenever you're building an IoT pipeline, or as a matter of fact, any data pipeline, you have to make sure that you have all the series of layers. That is where the data is being originated. In this case, it is being originated from the edge layer. The second is the broker layer, or how do you handle the incoming events. In this case, it's an IoT hub. The third is a data processing layer, like as in how do you perform some business logic actions. And the last is a database layer where you actually save the data. This is a very high level overall concept, and this is the most important part of this entire video. And if you know how all the things communicate with each other, it's very easy to build a IoT data pipeline. And throughout this series, we're going to tackle each layer, make multiple videos at each layer, and see how each components like talk with each other. We are going to take a project as an example and see how the entire thing happens. So the project that we are going to do, and how the project that we'll be doing to establish this particular data pipeline is this. We'll be having a device name which will be referring to as H1. The parameters that the device will be producing will be a temperature value. Programming language, we'll just skip it to Python for now. We'll be using a simulated device, not an actual device, but as a bonus pointer, at the end of the video series, I will show you how do you actually create a device. Not to create a device, how do you actually use a device like a NodeMs and Arduino to send the data. That also I'll be showcasing here. And at the last, the sample data. So this is a JSON that will be sending it from the device all the way to the cloud, which includes the device ID as H1, the temperature value, probably some randomized value, and third is the H timestamp, like when the data is being generated. This is the overall project information, and in the next video, what we'll be seeing is like how we can send this information all the way to the database. We'll start with the edge component, then move all the way up to the database layer. So that's pretty much all about today's video. It's about establishing the general fact, like how the data flows from the device to the cloud. As simple as that. Just information, this entire series is also available as an article, and you can go to the medium.com. My username is everyone171. I have given the link of that Medium article below in the description. You can definitely have a look. So by the time this video is out, the first Medium article has already been published. The second one will be published very soon, probably in 3 to 4 days time. And each week I'll be releasing a new video with a corresponding Medium article. That way you will have a much more clarity on how to establish this entire pipeline. Also, there will be GitHub repositories that will be available for you to use. So I'll be uploading all the sample code, that whatever we do it now, everything will be uploaded and you guys can use it. So that's all about it today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to my channel. Please hit the like button if you like this video, and do share this video amongst your friends and colleagues, such it will be a beneficial for me as well to keep me motivated, and probably you guys will be able to learn something new. That's about it. See you in the next video. Bye bye.